Hey gardeners, Taylor here. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to go over some housekeeping. If you're new here, you'll usually hear this at the beginning of every episode, and I update it like once a week. You can skip through, try 3 minutes. Try 3 minutes and see where it gets you. This is just me providing you local, seasonal, or important dates that I want folks to be aware of. So today's housekeeping is for local folks. If you live in the Brant County, Brantford, Six Nations area, and you actually want to join the Eagle Ground Executive or learn more about what we do or how you can get involved, we have our annual general meeting on January 13th. You can go to egcgbrant.ca and click on the events calendar. Check on January 13th. You'll get all the information there. You can also register for our newsletter, and I will remind you. And what else could you do? Oh, you could also email me at podcast@egcgbrant.ca, and I can get you all the information there. Second thing, we are planning for a garden festival in June of 2025, and we're looking for community folks to join our planning committee and to assist with the festival, either with planning or day of. Again, shoot me an email, podcast@egcgbrant.ca if you want to get involved. What else do I got for you? Podcast guests. If you're listening to this, I likely want to talk to you. If you've ever touched soil in your life, shoot me an email at podcast@egcgbrant.ca, and I would love to chat with you. We can do it virtually. There's no video that's taken. It's only audio, and it's very low key. Everybody is always like, oh, I'm so nervous. And I'm like, I'm telling you right now, we're going to get 10 minutes into this, and you're going to even forget that we're recording. I'm pretty fun to talk to. And then the last thing is we're going to be taking a break. If you are listening to this right now, we are still on a break. At the time of this being released, it's the last episode for the 2024 season. We're going to take a quick break. I need to get caught up with some things, and I kind of want to relax. And then we're going to reconvene in January. That being said, I'm still doing work on the back end, and I really want to talk to you. So if you want to get on the podcast, you want to chat a little bit about your gardening experience, absolute beginners, I'm talking to you. People say to me, oh, I don't feel like I have anything worthwhile to say. Listen, that is not the case, and I need you to believe in yourself, okay? So email me, podcast@egcgbrant.ca, and let's get chatting. And look at that. We're at 2 minutes and 43 seconds. So I was pretty close when I said skip to the 3-minute mark. Okay, I'm going to wrap up now. Happy holidays, friends. I hope you have a wonderful, safe holiday. Please drive safe. Make good choices. I hope you enjoy the family or the friends or the pets or nature. Just enjoy the season. I know it's such a stressful time. I'm going to do my best to enjoy it. I know you're going to do it too. And then I will chat with you in January. Okay, bye. Wait, I forgot the most important thing. I usually write myself a housekeeping list, and I left this one off. Most important for Eagle Ground, we are running an online fundraiser until December 15th. It's called Seed Money. If you have been listening to the podcast, you've heard us chat with Roger Doran. That is a couple episodes back. We chatted with the founder of Seed Money about the platform and how the fundraising platform works. Super cool guy, has done amazing things in his local area in Maine and also globally, so go listen to that. But Eagle Ground is running this fundraiser for ourselves, our campaign. The funds that we raise go back. The funds that we raise go directly back into our programming. So if you would like to donate, right down below on whatever platform you're using, there is a link that says donate to our Seed Money fundraiser. Click that link. It'll take you to our campaign page, and you can learn a little bit more about what we're doing. Any donations, we would be eternally grateful. Again, all of that money goes directly back into our programming and to being able to allow us to support more gardens in this area. Just note, okay, for my Canadian friends, that the platform is in USD. It is in American dollars, so keep that in mind. Keep the conversion in mind. Also, because the money is going through a third-party platform, we cannot issue charitable donation receipts, and neither can the Seed Money platform. They can if you're in the US. So if you're in America and you want to donate, you'll get a charitable donation receipt or whatever it is you guys receive. If you're in Canada, unfortunately, you won't. So don't donate that expecting that. And if you have any issues, questions, or concerns, again, email me, podcast@egcgbrant.ca. Okay, goodbye for real. Happy holidays. Hey gardener, you're listening to the Community Garden Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor, In this space, we'll dig into the dirt with local gardeners of all skill levels to share tips, tricks, and stories from our gardening adventures. Let's get growing. Hello, gardeners! Happy holidays. I'm recording this at the end of November, and it's finally starting to get cold outside. I'm so excited for the holidays and to maybe have a little break and maybe get back to some of my hobbies. I actually really enjoy the winter because I'm able to maybe turn to some of the things that I've been neglecting through the summer with the outdoor busyness. We tend to spend all of our time outdoors when it's warm, and then we save all of the indoor stuff for the winter. So I'm looking forward to catching up on some books and some hobbies. Now, that being said, this is going to be our last episode of 2024. So we are going to take a little bit of a break just to allow us to get caught up a little bit. And then we'll be back ready to, what word would I use? Ready to rock? Ready to garden? Not really. We're not going to be ready to garden in January, but we'll be ready to plan the gardens. So episode for today, I'm actually really excited about this one. I had this lovely opportunity to sit down with a pair of host gardeners that worked with us last year, Mary and Mary's 11-year-old son, Ash. And what a lovely pair. Mary had initially said, I'm kind of a beginner gardener. I don't know if this is going to be worth it. And it's always worth it. And I was just so delighted by the conversation that we had and how many things that I learned. So these two have a ton of recommendations for beginner gardeners, a ton of tips and tricks. We talk about some interesting and unique ways of combating or discouraging squirrels. We do talk about pandemic gardening, so just a heads up. We chat about some interesting ways to grow in pots when there's limited sunlight. And we also talk about some issues surrounding recycling black plastic. So there's a lot of tips and tricks in this episode, and we have quite a few resources. So if you hear us talking about anything, you want more information, chances are it's in the show notes page at thecommunitygardenpodcast.ca. Okay, we're going to dive in now, and let's get into it. Hello, Mary. Hello, Ash. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know it's a little drizzly out today. It's a little bit cold. I'd love if you each, we'll start with Mary, if you can dive in and just give a little bit of background about yourself and maybe how you came to gardening.
So for the listeners, my name is Mary, and I started gardening 20 when COVID struck the world. So I had never done gardening before, and when I conceived that idea, the main purpose was to keep my son, who was 7 years old at that time, to keep him occupied because we couldn't go out anywhere. We shut down everything in the month of March, and that was the best thing. There were no summer camps, nothing. There was no school as well. Everything became online. So I felt that that was something that he could do without having to get bored and without having to spend so much time on screen, especially because school became online. So that was just the beginning of the whole idea. And the gardening season was just starting. And I'd always looked at it and this is not for me. But that time I thought okay, maybe this is something I could do. And that's how it all started.
Oh, that's probably a familiar story for a lot of people who are listening. Mm-hmm. And what about you, Ash? How did you take to, first of all, moving to an entirely online life, but then having an outlet in the garden and being able to get outside? Did you enjoy it, or were you kind of
Well, I really like gardening, but the reason I got into gardening is because she wanted to find me a hobby because I play a lot of video games, and I mean 8 hours a day nonstop. But now I have frequent breaks because I've already played so many video games. It gets kind of boring sometimes. But when I was online, online school, it was really boring for me because I have all of my toys and gadgets right at my hands. So I couldn't focus. But when I had gardening, it was just oh, let me go water the plants. So it was really calm, and that's why I liked it.
Mm-hmm. It was an outlet for you, and you were able to get outside and get away from a lot of those distractions. I struggle with that when I work from home. I actually ended up building myself a home office where I could shut the door and get away from those distractions because I experience the same thing. And then when I need a break, I'll just go out into the garden. So yeah, very handy to have that as an outlet. So when you guys first started gardening, what did the gardening situation look like? Did you have access to a backyard? Was it done in containers? And what were the first few types of plants that you decided to grow?
So for me, we were living in a townhouse, like an apartment townhouse, but the best part was we were on the ground floor. So we had a patio, not a backyard. So the place was very limited. So we had to maximize the benefits out of it. That was our first investment. So we went and bought a lot of pots. And then we went to Costco and got like dirt. I didn't know that it was called dirt at that time. I was thinking, why is it called dirt? And eventually I understood why it's called dirt. But we got the manure. We used the manure as well. So we had like quite a number of different sized, different shaped pots. The rectangular, the oval. For the strawberries, we had a huge pot. And so we went and bought. It was till today, it has always been like pots, containers.
Oh, cool.
If you could say. It just comes depending on what type of vegetable we grow, whether it might be large sized or small sized, but it was always pots. And we could move it anywhere we moved.
That's amazing. So the dirt at Costco, just a question for you. Do you remember what it looked like or what type it was?
The Miracle Pro.
Oh, Miracle Pro, maybe. Yes.
Right?
Yes, yes.
So that one. But at the same time, it was not all Miracle Pro. It was because especially the strawberry pot that I had, I think I got a little bit greedy because I love strawberries.
Yeah.
I wanted so much of it. So I went and got like a really big, huge pot. So I had to fill it all up with
It's a lot. Yeah,
so
it's a lot of soil.
Yeah, it was a lot of soil, right? So I had to buy like that in tons. It came like in 20 pounds or
Yes.
something like that. Yeah.
So I ask because for folks listening, I've talked about different soil preferences before. And one of them that I speak about is the Pro Mix vegetable and herb. It's the organic soil mix. It can be pricey, except for folks listening, if you have a Costco around you, Costco sells them in 112-liter bags for $20. It is insane value.
Yeah.
If you ever need soil, you have access to a Costco membership in the spring. They put them out. They're heavy. You're going to need help lifting them. And they expand once you open up the bag. So it's a lot more soil than what you're looking at. It's very compressed. I'll put a link in the show notes for people who are interested in knowing what the soil is. So for folks who are doing container gardening and don't have access to exclusive compost or mixes that they make themselves, the Pro Mix organic vegetable and herb at Costco is a really cost-effective option. And I'm glad that you were able to go to Costco to get soil, because at the end of the day, it's the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to soil, as opposed to getting it at like Walmart or Home Hardware or something. Yeah.
I believe so.
So with the containers, what types of, other than the strawberries, what types of plants did you guys grow? Do you want to tell us, Ash?
Well, for all the years that we've been gardening, I feel like one of the main vegetables we grow was cucumbers. It's like a garden without cucumbers. It's not a garden at all. My mom's always like, we need cucumbers. There's no avoiding cucumbers. But we also buy Irish Spring soap because the squirrels like to come and eat the cucumbers. And one time we had a really, really big cucumber and the squirrel just took it away. So we had to back them, put the Irish clover into the soil, so because the smell puts away the squirrels. So
And you guys find that works? Mm-hmm. Do you just like grate it up,
No.
or just the whole bar?
No. So we don't grate it, we kind of slice it.
Okay.
So because we have to put it like on so many pots, right? So for example, if it is a smaller pot, just one slice is good. But if it is a rectangle, then we just put like one, not too close to the plant. We just space them out. But we also use garlic, and we use this Irish Springs soap. And these techniques we learned from our neighbors, a neighbor who had an amazing harvest of tomatoes. From him, I learned after we lost our cucumber.
Irish Spring soap. Anyone listening, I'll pop a link of the Irish Spring soap into the show notes. That's incredible. I love that idea. And it's worked for you guys since, eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then what we do is as time went by, we became a little bit more clever the following years. And when the cucumber really becomes a little bit bigger and bigger, I don't want to lose it. So we bag it, like with a paper bag.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
one thing our neighbor also had, he had like like spikes around his pot, not enough to like nearly kill the squirrel or hurt it, but just to keep it away because it was kind of sharp to touch, so the squirrels would stay away. But we never ever found those spikes and where he got them from.
So you can get them at the dollar store.
Yeah.
They have them there in the spring, and they have two different types. They have ones, they're all plastic, so they're not going to harm any wildlife. There's ones that are a little bit sharper, and then ones that are a little bit more dull, and they're really good for bunnies, birds, and for the
scarecrows.
squirrels. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then you can also get the spikes at the dollar store, and they're just little flat pieces that you can arrange in any way. So next year when you guys are looking for them, pop into like a Dollarama or something, and you might see them.
Perfect.
That's really cool. Wow. It sounds like your neighbor is a wealth of knowledge.
That's right. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that. So you grow lots of cucumbers. It sounds like you grow tomatoes as well, strawberries. What else?
So we do peppers, all types of peppers, jalapenos, capsicum, eggplant, and beans. This time we did beans with the Equal Community Garden.
Oh,
They gave it to us, and
Nice.
it was a
Were
plenty
they
harvest.
purple by chance?
No, the green beans.
They were green. We got some purple ones last year, and I tried to get everyone to take them because the purple beans are so much fun.
Yeah.
So we'll have to get you some purple ones next year.
We will remember that next time.
That sounds a lot of fun. So we've talked about what resources and what materials you use to get started. You've talked about pots and soil. What other materials did you guys need in 2020 in order to get that garden growing?
So the manure for sure. Like we were quite, because we were very amateurs at that point. We would do anything anybody would say. So they asked us to put some extra manure on top of the soil. So we got that miracle pearl, like those beads. So we used to put that one, and we got a lot of those scarecrow instruments, like the one that swings.
Oh yeah,
The fan or something.
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, so those kind of scarecrow tactics, we used to have it. And of course, we invested in trying to get some paper bags to cover up these. We had even Karela, the bitter gourd, we call it as in English. So we had that one too. And that one used to go as well.
What is it called?
It's called Karela in the ethnic language, but it's actually bitter gourd.
Bitter gourd.
Yeah, bitter gourd. So which is very good for people who are diabetic. I'm not giving medical advice, but coming from India, I grew up in India, and that was part of our cuisine all the time. We would end it up with that so that the blood sugar actually remains not spiked up at the end of a meal.
Is it like a leaf?
No, it is actually like a vegetable. You would get it in Walmart.
Cool.
Yeah, you would get it in any Indian store, and you would get it in Walmart especially.
And
I used to buy it in Walmart all the time.
And you guys were able to grow this in Canadian climates.
Yeah.
That's so cool. We're going to have to look into that.
Yeah.
Did you grow it from seed or did you find a seedling?
From the seed. No, like I actually got one of them from Walmart, and then I used those seeds to plant it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that was worked out for
Eggplant
you.
could work.
Yeah.
Karela could work too.
Yeah,
right?
that's
So-
really cool. Is it similar to an eggplant then?
No.
No?
It
Okay.
just it has the texture. It looks like a cucumber,
Okay.
but it actually the texture is very rough outside.
Okay.
But it would have the shape of a cucumber.
Okay, folks listening, I got more information coming for you. It's really cool. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
So that first year, did you guys find you had a good harvest, or was that the year the squirrels came for you?
The squirrels came for us because we used to live in Southampton Drive in Mississauga.
Yep.
And in our neighborhood, there were like a lot of squirrels. And one time, me and my friends found a baby squirrel, and we decided to adopt it because baby squirrels don't have the mind of an adult squirrel. But obviously, our parents said no, and they made us dump it in a tree. And then we left it to die, I guess. Maybe.
Well, we never saw it die, so maybe the mother found it. That's my optimism right there. But we did have a lot of harvest. Like they never came for the tomatoes or anything. They came for the cucumbers especially.
And anything they can dig for, like garlic, they take my
Correct.
garlic all the time, and then they leave it
Yes.
laid around. So I've got garlic growing in random places because they realize
I
it's
remember
not
I
food.
found like a bunch of cloves of garlic just around our pots because they dig it out so they can get the vegetables.
Yeah, I know. Pain in the butts, those
Yeah.
squirrels. So when did you guys start implementing using the Irish Spring soap and using the garlic as a deterrent for the squirrels? And did you notice a big difference?
Definitely.
Yeah.
We found, at least like where we lived, like there were bunnies too, but we didn't have that bunny problem there. Not at least a lot, but the squirrels were there plenty. So the Irish Spring really helped. But one thing is that we did change it. Like, okay, like after a couple of weeks, I would just make sure that they are not like into the soil. So they are just up on it, and I'll just remove the ones that had become, it doesn't give us that
Like
fragrance,
dry out,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So, and I will just slice it and put like new Irish Spring.
With the Irish Spring and the garlic, we've probably salvaged about like 50% more vegetables than before. So yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
These are
Definitely.
really great tips.
It made
Thanks,
it made a huge difference for us. And we did it in Paris too. Yeah.
So that's my next question. When you guys moved from Mississauga to Paris and the gardening experience between both locations, did you notice there was a big difference in the success of the plants you were growing and in the different pests that you were experiencing?
Well, in Mississauga, we had direct sunlight because we had a patio just out in the open where all the sun could come down. But we had a house. Our friends went to Brazil, so we rented out their house, and they had a backyard. But there were so many trees blocking the sunlight from coming, so we just found that sun was a struggle with the garden. So we couldn't really grow as much. So my mom every day she would move the plants to the spots where there was more sunlight, so we could get more efficient with it.
That is dedication.
That is how can I say, that is where the having the pots helped.
Yeah.
Not having it on the ground.
Yeah.
Because what I would do is in the morning they would all go that side and it would come, and then towards like maybe around 3 o'clock or something I would move all of them closer to me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, closer to my side so that it can maximize. We can maximize because especially this past summer, we did not get a lot of sun. We left for our summer vacation as well, end of July. So I had a very limited time. So yeah, so that was a bit of a struggle for me. So I would move the pots, everything, just to make sure that I get as much as sun possible.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Also, with another pro to growing in pots is they're less susceptible to be damaged by frost, especially if they're sitting on concrete or a patio.
Correct.
Did you find that you're able to extend your season a little bit? I mean, I know that's a bit of an odd question because it's currently the middle of November and I'm still getting like raspberries out of my garden and vegetables out of my garden. But do you notice that it's made a difference in terms of other things that might be planted around you?
Yes, the pepper and the mint.
Yeah.
So Ash has a very interesting story about the mint that he will let you know, but those two never died out until now. They are there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're still there.
Ash, let's hear your story.
So one day we went to No Frills just to go grocery shopping, and No Frills had this rack of dead plants that you could come, and they were completely free. You could just grab one off the shelf, and you can go maybe revive it. But so I decided to choose a mint plant, but at the time I didn't know it was a mint plant, and it was completely dead. But I still had a little bit of hope in it because I saw that little bit of green in it, meaning that it was hanging on his last breath. So I brought it home and I watered it every day, and it came back to life. And it's still alive today, and it's bigger than before.
Oh my goodness.
And that's the one of the two which has lived so much longer until
He's
now.
resilient.
Yeah. Well, I actually said no. I was like, no, I have used up all the pots. I don't want to buy anything. And it was almost like, I think, the month of June at that point. And people had picked whatever they wanted. And No Frills said, take it and try. And I said, no, I don't want to do it. And he was like, no, I don't want to. I feel bad for the mint plant. We should take it home, like the squirrel, right? But surprise, surprise, it's still alive today.
It'll probably come back next year too.
Yeah. And
A lot of the pots we actually bought were from Sobeys, but they were completely free. So they were just giving out like some good sized buckets, and so that's where I got like about 6 of the pots from.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I know it's pretty easy to find pots in the community. Have you guys ever been to Walter's Greenhouse?
We have.
Yeah.
We have.
Yeah. It's near the Alberta Farms.
Yes,
Yeah.
right beside Alberta
Alberta
Farms where the goats are. To the left of Walter's, there's these big wooden bins.
Wow.
And the community can come and dump the pots that they don't want, and then other people can come and take the pots that they want.
Wow.
And the pots that I noticed don't move very well are the big pots. Eco Ground also has a lot of big pots if you need. So
Thank you.
pretty easy to find some of the bigger ones.
Nice to know.
Oh, I have a story as well about dead plants.
Mm-hmm.
So you were a host gardener this year. Were you a host gardener the previous year?
No, I never knew about it.
Probably for the best. So the previous year, this would have been 2023, we receive all of our plants like the middle of May, and we receive them at one of our garden sites, and then we spend 3 to 4 days organizing them. So we organize them by type, and then we also take the order forms that people have submitted to us telling us what plants they want, and we make up their orders for them in advance just so that when they come, they can take them directly if they want. We had done that. We had spent 3 days going through thousands and thousands of seedlings, all of which are donated to us. And it was like May 18th, a frost came through.
Wow.
And all of the plants were sitting directly on the ground. None of them were like on tables or anything like that. Some of them were on concrete. Those ones survived. This frost came through. Myself and our president, Caitlin, we were out there in the middle of the night trying to keep the plants wet and just trying to, because if you keep the plants wet, sometimes it can stop them from freezing, trying to mitigate the issues. But almost every single seedling we had that year died. And I say that with quotations for people who are listening. Unfortunately, it was the card that we were dealt with, and we encouraged everybody to plant the plants anyways. And the garden season ended up being fine. All of the plants ended up coming back, minus like a handful of basil.
Wow.
And so we told people, we know they look dead. Let's get them in the ground anyways and see what happens. And they all ended up coming back. It was really cool.
Yeah, it is.
It's incredible what plants can do.
It's a miracle story.
Yes, I know.
That's like the miracle pearl.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So in
Yeah,
our
the miracle
garden,
grow.
we didn't have a watering can, so I decided to get creative because during our Christmas parade last year, I got a bunch of glow sticks and I had no use for them until I found out that we had no watering can. So I would take a plastic bottle, I would get my pencil, and I would stab the cap to the point where there's a small hole, and then I would put the Q-tip into it, and then I'd fill it up with water, and I'd like make a stand with the glow sticks, and I'd put it into the pot, and slowly but surely the water would flow through the Q-tip and drop down, so I didn't have to do anything for basically the entire gardening season.
Oh, so you set up like a passive watering system.
It wasn't too much, but it wasn't too little.
That's very smart of you.
Yeah.
What a cool solution.
Yeah.
And then you just had to fill the water bottles up every few days?
Every few hours, because it does come really fast sometimes.
Oh, it's almost if you get like a seal around that Q-tip or something. That's really cool.
He's going to be working on it to make it a little bit more seasoned this time.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't have to keep doing the watering all the time.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's kind of how a soaker hose functions. Have you heard of a soaker hose?
No.
So they look like a garden hose. You hook them up to the garden hose and you put them in your garden. And the material is designed to let out small amounts of water every so often. So very similar design in that you lay it out and then over time it can passively water the plants. That's really
Even
cool.
when we are not there, I guess, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So if you were going on vacation,
Yeah.
a soaker hose would be an option for a longer term solution.
Right.
Yep. Okay. So you guys have been growing all of these vegetables and successfully in the containers. Moving into the kitchen, what do you like to do with the produce?
So the first produce, always the 10%, or I would say the first produce always goes to God. So we would go give it to the priest or parish priest, or we would just give it away. The whole, when I got into this community gardening with you guys, the first thing that I liked about it was when Caitlin said to me, oh, well, you just give 20% of your produce for charity.
For anybody.
No,
Yeah.
actually, that's not what they said to me.
Okay.
They said 20% of the produce to charity. And I was like, that's pretty cool. That's amazing. But then when I actually asked her, okay, where do I go give it? They said, oh, your neighbors, anybody. I was like, well, that doesn't sound like the first time.
Yeah.
So what I actually did, we went and gave it to our parish priest, the first produce, and there was lots of beans. The beans were amazing. We put that in 2 plants. And that harvest was so much for
The
beans.
beans grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
They're my favorite to grow for that reason.
Okay. But this is our first time doing beans. So, and then there was cucumber and tomatoes. So that one goes, and then we tend to give it to our friends, anybody who is interested and who is not interested in vegetables, right? Everybody uses it, and the rest comes to us. But this time we weren't there. We went to Israel for our vacation, and then by the time we came back, it was already like end of September.
Yeah.
So we were there for almost like 2 months plus. But our neighbors, we told them to take it from our yard.
Good stuff. Wow, that's amazing. So if you were to use the produce in the kitchen, what types of dishes do you like to make? How do you like to use the produce in the kitchen?
So tomatoes, the Indian cuisine always has use for, right? And on top of it, you can do like a nice omelet with the onions and tomatoes. So that's what. Cucumbers in salad mostly. And then the beans, we do something like a side dish where you put some shredded coconut with beans and carrot. Yeah, so you really cut them up.
Yeah.
And then you put some seasonings, the Indian cumin, coriander and stuff, salt, turmeric and stuff. And with the shredded coconut, and that would turn out really well.
Is the coconut sweetened or unsweetened?
No, it's unsweetened. Yeah, it's
I've just
unsweetened.
tried that.
Yeah, because the Indian cuisine doesn't, especially the southern part of India, where I come from, we don't have the sweetened dishes at all. Everybody likes it hot and spicy. Hot. And when I say hot, it's the spiciest hot.
Yeah.
So they would not eat it if there is sweetened any sweetened in it.
Yeah.
And for the capsicum, that could go into the salad, or it could also have like a stuffed, like minced beef or minced chicken, and you can stuff the capsicum, right? And that we could use. And mint, and so one thing that I wasn't successful was with the coriander leaves. Yeah. It never came. So with the mint and the coriander, either you can just have the mint tea, or we use it in biryani.
Oh, yes.
The mint, right? And then I think the eggplant, for example, it is one of the best vegetables, like as a person coming from India, I could eat. So we could make it into moussaka, right? Or I could just use that as a curry in the curry. Cool. Vegetable curry, yeah.
Nice. Mm-hmm. A lot of uses. I've just started cooking with mint in the last few years. I didn't realize it could really elevate flavors. Yeah. So I started cooking with mint a little bit, including it in more of my dishes. It's been very fun. For the coriander, here we also call it cilantro as well. Yeah. So you plant the coriander seeds. They don't like the heat at all. They like shade. So it's nice that you plant them in pots because you're able to move them if you need to.
Yeah.
When they do come up, have you successfully grown it at all?
The coriander, I haven't had any success at all, whether I did it in Mississauga or here. I mean, and I've tried different things. I've tried from the seedling, I've tried from the seed. Sometimes they said break it and put it in, roast it and put it in. Yeah. I've tried everything, but I haven't had any success with the coriander leaves. Yeah.
The biggest piece of feedback we get is that the plants bolt very quickly because they don't like the heat. So they grow best in the spring and the fall. Oh. So if you're trying to grow them in the summer, that's probably where you're running into issues. Mm-hmm. Try March, April, May, and September, October, November.
So would you say then the coriander is a good thing to grow inside the house?
You could grow it in the house, yeah. Yep. Okay. You're going to have to find a pretty sunny window for that, but it's worth a try.
Okay. The apartment that we are staying right now there's a lot of sun. There's a lot of chances for the sun to come in, to come streaming in, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I should try that.
Try.
March, you say March is better.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We don't really have luck with it in the actual summer just because we do have usually pretty hot conditions here and very little reprieve from the sun throughout the day.
Got it.
Or if you have somewhere in your garden that does receive more shade or is a little bit cooler, there's more wind, consider planting it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
No, I tried to plant an onion, and I thought, so my mom just bought a new bag of onions from the grocery store, and I noticed one of the onions had a stem to it, so I was like, oh, I can plant this in a pot and make it grow into a plant. But then I realized after a few days it wasn't growing, and then that's when it hit me that an onion is a bulb plant, so it doesn't grow above surface, it grows underground.
Oh, yes.
And then I pulled it out and
so you had it upside down?
Yeah.
Gotta flip it over. Yes. Yeah, so what you would do when your onions you have your big bulb, it'll start to put shoots on it, usually in the spring. You can actually separate them into their individual shoots. They'll have their own bulb, and then you would go and you plant the bulb in the soil. Yeah. Try it again. Onions. Have you guys successfully grown onions in the pots?
No.
We will try that.
Yeah.
You heard it, right? Like so.
But the shoots were growing. It's just that it was just one onion. I couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah. Yeah, try flipping it over. Onions are best to put in the ground in March. And then onions are a little bit finicky. It depends on what type of onion you're growing and if it's grown from a seed. If it's grown from a seed, it takes 2 years. If it's grown from a bulb, you might not have good success. Or you can grow onions from what are called starts, and those tend to put on the biggest bulbs. If you grow a start or a bulb, you'll usually have a harvest by like September.
Okay.
So when you grow it from seed, it can take 2 years.
Wow.
So just for future reference for next year.
But in Canada, we cannot do that, right? Because of the winter?
So they'll overwinter fine. So what people will do, see the bulbs that you get from the grocery store, those onions have been growing for 1 year. So if you were to plant a seed, it's going to grow a bulb that big. And then the next, it'll overwinter fine. And then the next year, that's when you'll get the big bulb. And then it does go over the winter. I've had onions that I never harvested and I let them go to seed. And those seeds have been growing for years in my garden and I just leave them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so onions are a bit more finicky. I suggest growing them either from a bulb like you were doing or from, if you ever find them, they're called starts and they just look like little onion plants. Yeah. Ash, what is your favorite part about gardening?
My favorite part about gardening is probably watching the process of them growing, because when you go to the grocery store and look at all the produce on the shelves, you're like, oh, it's just a vegetable. But when you grow them yourselves, you see how much work it actually takes. And when you harvest your produce, it's like, wow, I feel like I accomplished something.
It tastes a little bit better too, right? Yeah, that is arguably the best part of growing your own food, is being able to see that process, because oftentimes we don't get to see that side of things. The tomatoes here in Ontario are almost entirely grown inside of a commercial greenhouse, so we never get to see that process.
It never gets old watching the tomatoes going from green to red and getting bigger every day. It's really cool.
Oh, I know, and you can go outside and check every day. And this year, have you ever heard of tayberries?
No.
So they are a hybrid. It's not a natural plant. It's a cross between a raspberry and a blackberry. And I'm a little bit vain. I grow them because my name is Taylor and they're called tayberries. These things grow so fast, I swear you could watch them like put on inches onto their branches every single day. And that's one of my favorite things, is watching these plants that grow very, very, very fast, very quickly. Have you ever grown loofah before?
No.
So loofah, do you know what loofah are?
I've heard about it.
Yeah.
I just cannot place it, but I
That's
think
okay.
I know
So
which
loofah
one.
is actually a sponge that you can purchase
Yes, I know.
for the kitchen or for your body, and it grows like a cucumber. And you can eat them when they're 3 to 4 inches big. But then if you let them get extremely big, like this big, they will dry out, and then you're able to use that as a really resilient sponge. So we hosted a loofah seedling fundraiser last year, and we'll do again in 2025. So lots of our gardeners were growing loofahs. And also something that grows, like once the vines take off, oh my gosh, they'll get up to 16 feet long.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to watch those. Same with beans. I love seeing the rapid growth of some of these plants. Yeah. What's your favorite part, Mary?
Oh,
of
just
gardening?
like what he said.
Same thing.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. That is exactly. It's very exciting. I have a problem carrying like heavy stuff, which is when Ash came and helped me a lot this time. Oh, a big shout out to Caitlin and her team as well. Yeah, because they really, really were super helpful getting the dirt. They actually bagged it and helped carry it into the trunk.
Nice.
And all I had to do was drive it back to Paris. And then my son would just help me get it down, and we did it like slowly.
Yeah.
But all of that hard work, at that time, it might feel a bit overwhelming. But, like once you have put the seed, every day, you know that there's going to be nothing the next day, but you still want to come and see it and make sure, if you are going to be out the whole day, that they get the maximum sun. It's like a lot of communication. Yeah. With the plants and ourselves, right? Like, so that's the part I like. And whenever he comes back from school, I would call him, did you go see? And like things like that. Yeah, I love that entire process of starting from the scratch and seeing it all.
And it sounds like you've brought community into your space as well. You're sharing your harvest. So just circling back, we can talk about your experience now with the host garden program. And for folks listening, 2 episodes before this one is released, we actually chat with Caitlin Cat.
Nice, very good.
And we talk about the host garden program. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, it's 2 before this one. It was released 2 weeks ago. Go ahead and listen to it. We talk a lot about the host garden program. At the time of release of this episode, the 2025 host garden program is open for registration. So if folks want to go ahead and register, if you live in the area, we'll give you plants, seeds, compost, and access to some education. And I would love to chat with you about your experience as a host gardener this year, or last year, I suppose, at this point.
Almost.
So how did you hear about the program?
So I heard it from the library. From the Paris library.
Nice.
Yeah, so I used to go there and I just saw it and I was interested in it. So I emailed Caitlin right away and she said, well, that's great. We will contact you guys probably in the month of March or something, but I was really looking forward to it. I had never done something like this before. So we went ahead with it and Caitlin was there every step of the way. And when we had to come and pick the seedlings, if we weren't able to make it at that time, she would accommodate and she would always tell us like, okay, when is the next time that it's coming and things like that. And very honestly speaking, and very quickly, I had no idea when I filled out the form, I had no idea what I was going to do, how much space I had.
Yeah.
I didn't fill anything. I just left it like, you decide.
Yeah.
So even the first ones that we got, they were not like the seeds that I was expecting to get. Especially the lettuce and the cabbage or something like that.
Yeah.
But then she was, and then when I said to her, yeah, these are the stuff that we won't even eat. And then she changed it. Like she changed it and she gave us what we wanted. Like the
we have
cucumber and
access to so much that ultimately for our organization, we have a few programs. This is one of them. We just want to get plants and seeds into the hands of people who are going to grow them and ultimately consume them, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I also and I also noticed that there were many people in my community who have been in Paris for like 50 years from our church, and they didn't know about this program.
You got to tell them to.
Yeah, so that's what I said to them next year, because by the time they came to know, did you get all the dirt free and we had to pay? I was like, yes, maybe next year, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't just the point that it was free, but the way it was done, the way it was given, like the way we were educated and things like that. That's what I loved the most about it. It was so sweet and very, how can I say, that's something we could use. It wasn't like something, let's say I move to another place. I hope I don't, but, and, I could just take that learning and go apply it elsewhere, right? Like, so it was really very useful. That's how I would put it.
Well, we love to hear that.
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
For folks listening, the soil that we're talking about, every year we do a compost blitz. And because we have our community gardens and we have our host gardens. Community gardens, anyone can go access at any time. They're usually in parks. And then host gardens are residential growers like Mary and Ash, who we will give you access to these items and you can grow in your own home. What we do with the compost is we have the landfill. We partner with the landfill in the City of Brantford.
Yeah.
We get a massive amount dropped and then we invite everyone to come take as much as they need. So we try to gauge prior to like how much space you have and how much you might need so we can do some quick calculations. But we always have tons left over and we're able to invite institutions and organizations and schools to also come take from it. So it is a bit of a challenge to navigate for a lot of the growers to be able to, okay, how much do I need and how do I get it from you? But at the end of the day, most people would bring bins, recycling bins, garbage bins. They'll come and we have a team of volunteers there ready to scoop it up and send you on your way. So, and we offer that every year. So we'll do it again, probably in May.
I have informed everyone that I know who asked, because even like the one that Ash mentioned about the Sobeys thing, we didn't know. We just bumped into it, right?
Yeah.
So we even mentioned about it because the more you recycle, then the more plastic we won't be using, right?
Absolutely.
Like just keep using the ones that until it comes to a point where we cannot use it rather than buying new plastic.
Yep.
So we are also very eco-friendly.
Yes.
Not to the point of madness, but we are quite eco-friendly. We try our best to recycle as much as possible, right?
I love that.
So, yeah.
Just for anyone listening, fun fact, horticulture plastic, which is what they call it, it's the black plastic, can't be recycled.
Can't be?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
So that's why places like Walter's Greenhouse, where they have their bins where you can come and you can drop your pots and people can come take them. Those are really handy because it allows us to keep those pots circulating in the system. That black plastic is like plastic that's been recycled so many times that they can only make black flimsy plastic with it, and then that's kind of the end of its life. So
I see what you
yeah,
mean.
it can't really be recycled again, unfortunately. But yeah, being able to
So, but we
reuse a
keep
lot of those
using
pots.
it as much as possible. Right.
It's perfect. Okay, just moving forward into 2025, what are you looking forward to? What types of skills are you looking forward to improving? Are you going to be trying to grow any new types of plants?
So the onion that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I think he wants to try that.
Yeah.
Potatoes, like, what's your opinion on potatoes? Is that something that we could do?
Yes. So I grow potatoes in bags or in big pots. I don't grow them in the ground. You want to plant your potatoes in April, and so let's say you have like a 20-gallon pot, which is pretty big. It's filled with soil. I'll take usually 3 seed potatoes. You can either buy them. We'll probably have potatoes this year that we can share with you as well. So you'll take 3 seed potatoes and you'll plant them, I'd say like 3 per 20 gallons. It depends on the size of pot you have. If you overcrowd them, they don't produce well. What some people will do is they'll fill their pots halfway with soil, plant their seed potatoes. And when the plants start to poke up, they'll put more soil on top. And they'll force the plant to grow larger and larger, which will then put on a bigger root system, which means more potatoes. I don't have time
So then
for
you
that.
kind of start it from the lower.
Yes.
Then you don't fill the pot with so much soil.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is the most efficient way to do it. I don't have time for that. So I just fill mine really, really high all the way with soil, and I plant my potatoes really deep, and they always come up. In the past 2 years, I've planted a variety of potato that I don't like. They're little fingerling potatoes, so they're really small. But there's lots of varieties out there that you can plant. It is really easy, and it's also trial and error. So they're best done in pots. So you're already halfway there.
You got it.
And when you fill out your plant request form this year, you can go ahead and put potatoes on there, and we'll do our best to get them in.
Okay.
So,
well,
yeah.
this time we also have a bigger space. I just want to gauge this time about the sun.
Sorry. Okay, you want to gauge this time about the sun?
Yeah, about where like the sun is coming and things like that. But we also have a bigger space behind our apartment, so we should be able to do a lot more than what we did last year.
Nice.
That's the hope. And we want to also grow, and at least this time I know exactly what I want so that I wouldn't waste a bit of time in the beginning, because there was a lot of rain this time.
Yes.
And that is something that I was saying to him, like we had this huge tub, the black tub, and there was no drain at the bottom.
Oh.
And so what happened, I was advised, don't put the whole of dirt there. Just put some, twigs and leaves, and which is exactly what I did. But because there was no drain at the bottom, everything got, the lettuce and everything, they just went away.
Yeah, I did.
But I did lose a bit of time.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of time here. So this time I'll be careful about that, right? That was a hard lesson that I learned. There needs to be a drain. But that is exactly, broccoli is something that we both love. I know it's a surprise, but anyways.
I like Brussels sprouts. So does my little sister.
I love it too, but it just doesn't, work with my body system, the Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
But the broccoli is really good. So we want to try different stuff this time. And if we are going to be staying the whole summer, then I hope to see, I asked him his goal this time. He said 3 pounds. I was like, that's it? He was like, no, 20 pounds.
There you go.
Right?
Show the
So,
followers.
so the more we get, the more we give, right?
Yeah.
Like, we can't eat it all, so.
I have a question that wasn't on my list. So we've been talking that you're from the south of India, and we've mentioned a few plants that are grown there but are not grown here. Are there other plants or vegetables that you would love for this area to try growing?
Okay, so that's a really great question. You know why? Because when we were in Israel this year, I found a few Indians there, the nuns, and they were literally growing every plant every vegetable that would be in India. But the best thing about Israel and India is summer is hot, and they have like a lot of that benefit, right? So they were growing drumsticks for those. Yes, I know that look, right? Like, because you would have never heard about it here. And when I go and buy it from the vegetable store, the Indian stores, you don't get it anywhere, only in southern part of India. Not even in regular Indian stores, you would get this southern Indian stores. And when I go to Mississauga, probably I should have brought something. I'll send a picture that you can post. It is very good for iron, and it's very expensive when we buy it here. Over there back in India, it used to, every yard, everybody's home backyard would have that tree because it's so good for health and it's very tasty too. And they were growing that in Israel. So, but it's a tree. It's not something like a tomato plant, right? But I would like to try, what is that vegetable? These are like little plants. I just don't know the name in English. In Tamil, we would say sundakai and things like that. I could find that for you.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that I want to try from the Indian thing. The only thing is the sun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Equal Ground, we're building our greenhouse right now. So we have the greenhouse
I
opening
will
soon.
let you guys know.
And
sure.
we just might have more capacity to grow some of these things through the greenhouse.
Yeah.
So if we can increase what we're growing and be more inclusive in the types of foods that we're growing, we would love to be able to do that.
Like in Canada, I would also like to try, because every time we go to Israel every year and we see the figs and the olives and the pomegranates in literally everybody's backyard. So if we are going to have a greenhouse, then maybe that's something that we could try, right?
Yeah, so we have some fig cuttings coming. I grow a very large fig tree at home with my partner. It's my partner's great-great-grandfather's fig tree.
Okay.
And it's a little harder to grow in Canada, but you can grow figs in your backyard in Canada.
Yeah.
You just have to insulate the tree over the winter. So we actually just did it the other day.
Okay.
Our fig tree is... Honestly, at one point, it was almost the width of this room. Probably at least 8 feet, 9 feet across this year. We had a wonderful fig harvest. And then what we do is around 4 corners of the tree, we put in stakes and then we wrap it in vapor barrier and we fill it with leaves. We insulate the tree with leaves. So we wrap it up in November and then in March, we unwrap it. We snip any of the dead off. And then this year, honestly, by like July, the tree exploded. It was beautiful. It was like 16 feet tall. So we've been successfully growing figs now for many years in the area. And I just gave about 50 cuttings to a community member who's going to root a bunch of them. And then he's going to give some of them back to us. And we're going to have them through the program. So we can probably get you a fig cutting. And then I want to grow some in the greenhouse as well. So it's hard with some of the tropicals that don't take to winter well at all, but I want to do some more fun stuff that maybe we wouldn't normally see here because we do have the greenhouse access. The only issue is it's not heated. So it will be colder in December, in January and February. But we can still definitely trial and error things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question. I've always tried like apples and oranges. I've always picked the seeds out of them wanting to grow a tree. But every time I never see it sprout and it never grows.
So it is impossible to grow a tree from the apples you buy in the grocery store. So apple trees, the way that they make the apple trees now is they graft them. So they remove or they take cuttings of other trees. They remove a piece of the tree and they make a new root system, and that's how they grow a new plant. So it's impossible to grow apple trees from the seeds, unfortunately.
I saw a viral hack online about you can split open a cherry pit and the seeds right inside. You can just take this pit out and hammer it with a hammer. And the seed will come. And I tried to plant it, but it never worked.
Shoot. There are some really good videos online on how to grow an avocado tree from seed, how to grow a mango tree from seed. I would recommend staying away from the videos you see on like TikTok or Facebook and instead go to YouTube and find somebody who grows avocado trees regularly. There's a lot of really cool ideas. What I'll do is I'll find some and I'll put them in the show notes of this episode. So when it comes out in a couple weeks, you can go and you can see. And for other folks listening, if you're interested in some interesting ways to grow some of those plants, I'll throw some ideas in the show notes for you guys.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I know the apple trees, it's always interesting. They never grow from the seeds. And it's just the way that they control the industry now.
For him, it's the apple. For me, it's the sweet cherries.
The sweet cherries.
Because we never get them here. I mean, this summer was really good. I did eat a lot.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they're always coming from elsewhere, and they're very expensive. So I know like it takes like 6 to 7 years from the time you start like a cherry tree, but that's like my dream, to have my own cherry farm so that in Ontario, we could grow our own cherries and it would be good for people to buy it and it would be cheaper rather than importing it.
Yeah.
You know what
the
I mean?
only thing is the cherry season in Canada or in Ontario is very short. It's only a couple weeks. right? So we actually just planted some cherry trees at Woodman Park where the greenhouse is going. So hopefully we'll have some cherries in the future. You can also get cherries during a very small window at Earl Haig Community Garden.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how long those will be available for now, but there's a very small window of time where you can get the cherries at Earl Haig. The season here is so short, right? So there is a boom. There's a cherry boom when the way that seasonally it works, like when it's blackberry season or blueberry season, they'll show up in all the markets and they become a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know the cherry season's so short. It's great when you can harvest them all and then you can like preserve them and then you have them throughout the winter.
So which is the place that you said we could buy? Royal, where we could buy the cherry?
So I don't have a place to buy the cherry, but we have cherry trees planted in a few areas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Earl Haig Community Garden has 3 cherry shrubs, and then we just planted.
And these are sweet cherries.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we just planted 5 or 6 at Woodman Park Community Center, but those will take a couple years. They're little.
Got it.
So yeah, and then I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else in town where they're publicly planted. But I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I know that season's really, really short. Okay, I have some questions for each of you about your preferences. For each question, we'll start with Mary and then we'll go to Ash, okay? Mary, what is one thing you dislike about gardening?
That there is not enough sun.
Oh, yeah, not enough sun. What about you, Ash?
Probably the fact that she makes me water the plants every day right in the middle of my gaming session.
Shoot. Gets you outside, though. Lets your eyes relax a little bit.
First world problems.
But it's worth seeing the plants.
It's worth it. Yeah, I agree. Mary, we've already kind of talked about this. What is one goal you have for the upcoming season?
To try some new stuff like potato and sweet potato, for example, like broccoli. Broccoli, we tried it once, but not in a big way. So trying like not the usual, I mean, I would still do the usual tomatoes, but I will reduce that a little bit and then focus on the other things as well so that I have like a big variety.
Nice. What about you, Ash? Any gardening goals for the upcoming season?
Probably to get a new variety of vegetables and try some things new. Like maybe cauliflower, because I used to like cauliflower when my mom used to make it, but now you don't find cauliflower everywhere. It's kind of like the forgotten vegetable.
Yeah, I know. It's either super expensive or it's super cheap. Mary, what is your favorite vegetable to eat?
The ones that I grow? Or it's in general?
Yeah.
I think broccoli at this point.
Broccoli. Okay, what about you, Ash?
Probably carrots because my mom makes them super good. And when you like glaze them in honey, they're really nice. So probably like soft carrots.
How do you make them?
In different ways. But I just forgot, drumstick is actually my favorite because of its health reasons and it's tasty, right?
Yeah.
But you don't get it here, so
Yeah,
broccoli is the next one.
That's fair. Maybe in the future.
Yeah. No, like, so the way to try to saute my vegetables, and my son is very nice to me, like, so he's not, he's very easy. He's not high maintenance for me. So if the food is good, he's happy about it, right? So when I was in Israel, one thing that I noticed was those guys, they eat their vegetables and meat as is, with a very limited, just olive oil, salt and pepper. And then they put it in the fire.
Yep.
And that's it, right? In like literal fire, coal fire. And the onions, what they would do is they would just do the same thing that I said, put it in foil and put it in the hot coal. And so I learned that, this is an easy way with garlic. That's what they would do.
Yep.
Just that whole,
Yep.
And they'll just put it, and that's it. So because I learned it like that, and I felt that you get almost all of the nutrition without overcooking it, which is the Indian way of doing it. You just almost lose all the nutrition. You just get the taste a little bit. So that's how I do it, so saute it with olive oil, salt and pepper, simple. Just put it in. Yeah.
That's how I make a lot of my meals as well, but I'm also white. But my partner is Italian and they do a lot of stuff. Most of our meals in the summer are done on the barbecue. The vegetables get wrapped up in foil with a little bit of olive oil. We actually get our olive oil from Italy, from my partner's family's farm.
Oh, wow.
They send it over to us directly, so it's nice quality.
Yeah.
And it good
tastes
olive oil.
different. It tastes
thank
different.
Goodness.
We get it from Israel.
Yes. Yeah, you know exactly how it is.
Yeah.
So a really good high quality olive oil and some sea salt. That's typically it. Maybe sometimes I'll throw in some garlic from the garden, or if I need something spiced, I'll use as much as I can from the garden. But a good olive oil and a bit of salt goes a long way with vegetables.
With a little bit of pepper.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need, right? And the Japanese eggplant, not the small ones, the big ones, the Japanese eggplant. It's like one eggplant is very big. It's enough. That's exactly what will happen. They would actually make like a chutney. We call it as dip here. Back in India, we call it as chutney. That's it. They will just put it in the coal, and then they'll remove the skin and take out and make it dip, and that's it.
I know, I've had
Your
that
dip is ready.
So good.
Yeah.
It's so good. What is your favorite vegetable to grow?
To grow, it's tomato.
Tomatoes, yes.
Because it's easier. It's low maintenance. No matter what you do to it, it will grow.
High
and it will
yield,
a high yield.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Good stuff. What about you, Ash?
Probably the mint, because I'm just super proud that I revived that
Blame
mint
you.
plant.
I will say this. If you guys ever end up transitioning to gardening in garden boxes or in the ground, don't plant the mint into the ground. Mint is incredibly invasive and will spread like it's nobody's business.
Yeah.
What's a vegetable you don't like, Mary? You don't like to eat?
Probably Brussels sprouts. Not because it's very tasty, actually. If you make it the right way, it's really tasty. But I hope you edit this out, but I do have that gastrointestinal problem.
I can edit it out.
That is because I love it, but I just can't eat it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very good for health. It's a very healthy vegetable. But no matter how they tell me to do it,
It doesn't work.
it just doesn't work.
That's
I have a
okay.
problem.
Yeah, it just doesn't vibe with your belly.
Yeah.
What about you, Ash?
Well, I actually really like broccoli, but my mom makes me eat raw broccoli, which it just
Good for you.
it's good for me, but I don't like how it tastes. It's just too raw.
Yeah, that's fair.
But when she boils it and puts the olive oil on it and then the salt and it's super soft, that's when I like it.
Or put it in the pasta.
Otherwise, it's just raw. I'm just eating a raw tree.
That's fair.
As long as he has a good dip.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the other day we got like the feta cheese with chive and something, herb and chive. So with that, he's happy to eat. But like the raw stuff, it's hard to.
Get a dip because the vegetable is just a vessel to get the dip in.
That's right. Yeah.
So good.
So good.
And what is one thing that you really struggled with in the garden in 2023 or 2024?
So there was 1 week in between when it was just so hot, and this was the month of May.
Yeah, we had
June.
Yeah, we had a heat wave. In June. Yeah.
And it just wouldn't let go, and we had like from 5 to 6 days, and until then nothing was growing for me. And in the 1 week, it was like Jack and the Beanstalk. It just grew so much. But the bummer was after that we didn't have that good of a hot spell.
Yeah.
So that's the part I do not like. I want like consistent summer.
Yeah,
I
weather
want,
and consistencies.
yeah. I mean, and that's the reason Ash was not born at that time, but we used to live in Vancouver. So that's the main reason when I moved here, like I didn't want like when it is going to rain, when there is really not a summer over there. There might not be snow, but you never get a defined summer. Whereas Ontario has a defined summer. But I think by the time we left, so I wasn't able to see it all.
Absolutely.
But that's the one that I struggle with because these are like my babies and I don't want them to die.
Yeah, the weather inconsistencies are hard.
That's the biggest problem for me, and that is why I always think in my mind maybe I should do my farming in Israel during the summer. I should go there, and because the 4 months I get it right, but he gets only 2 months vacation. So
yeah, that's true. You got school.
Yeah,
what a bummer.
That's right.
Is there anything you feel like you struggled with the garden? I know you've talked about optimizing your automatic watering systems. Is there anything else that you struggled with this year?
It was probably when we planted the lettuce plant in that really big bathtub because there was no, as she said, there was no drainage system. And we thought we were watering it right until we realized and we looked at it, how wet it was. And we let it dry out for a few days, but you could still see how bad it was. And then we decided there was no hope for it and the plants were already dead. So we dumped it over. My bad.
No worries at all.
And all the water came rushing out, and the soil just sat there.
Probably smelled
And
bad.
yeah, it smelled terrible.
Because it was the leaves, the twigs, and the dirt.
Good for the biology, not good for the nose.
That's
or
right.
the plants.
Yeah. And it was a huge one.
Yeah.
Right? And it was raining and pouring. It wasn't even like the water that we did.
Yeah.
But it was the rain, and it was just floating. And we didn't even realize. And we were still watering because they were all at the bottom.
Yeah.
Right? So
Absolutely. Wow.
lesson well learned.
Yeah. Next year. Drainage is very important.
No, we threw away that tub. That was no good.
Oh, okay, that's fair. That's fair. Guys, this was wonderful. I'm so incredibly grateful that you were able to sit down and chat with me this afternoon. And you guys are full of knowledge. Like when you first messaged me, I'm a beginner. I'm not sure what I have to contribute. This was incredible. This is exactly what this podcast is about. And I'm really grateful that you were able to sit down with us and share some of your knowledge. And I'm excited to try out the Irish Spring Soap Pack and maybe look into getting some other plants and seed types into our rotations.
Garlic too. Just take the top of the garlic so that the garlic smell comes, and then just put it there.
Another good hack to get the garlic cloves separated and like the skin off of it, put an entire garlic in like a container and shake it up, and all of it will come off.
Yeah,
So-
I've seen that.
Well, the point that we didn't have a video helped us a lot.
There you go. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Very grateful.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you very much. We really enjoyed it.
Mary and Ash, I'm so grateful that you gave me an hour of your time. It was incredible to be able to sit down and chat with you and hear about some unique perspectives when it comes to gardening. And we're grateful to both of you for being host gardeners within our program. So just for folks listening, again, host gardener, Equal Ground. If you live in Brant County, Brantford, Six Nations, Equal Ground will give you plants, seeds, access to compost and mulch, and education and support. In turn, you go grow a garden at your home, and we ask that you share 20% of what you grow. And that can be to anyone. There's really no strict rules. So we just want to give folks more opportunities to participate in that community garden idea. So if you're interested, you live in those areas, you want to register as a host gardener, go to the communitygardenpodcast.ca and you'll see that there's a little link there for host gardens. This also links into our main website. So you'll see along the top bar, there's like a programs page. You can also navigate that way. And you can also read more about Equal Ground on that website. Okay, let's talk about a gardening tip. This one's a bit strange. It is going to be Black Friday. Actually, Black Friday will have passed by the time this comes out. However, it's kind of end of season clearance time for outdoor stuff. Stock up on gardening gloves. This has been a game changer for me. When I see them now, I grab them when they're super low price and I end up just having like a mountain of them. If you're like me, you lose your gardening gloves quite literally everywhere, and you also find them quite literally everywhere, but they're kind of like socks where I can never find the matching one, or like it's like both left hands. So keep your eyes peeled when you're in department stores. Always check the gardening section. Even if it's tiny, sometimes you can find really good deals on gloves and like equipment. And I know this might seem silly, but since I have been checking the gardening section, I've been able to stock up on gardening gloves. It's been, and I've found some really expensive, really good quality ones for like $2 when they're regularly like, I don't know, 18. So go stock up. Thank you again to the City of Brantford and to the Brant Community Foundation for funding this podcast. Also, a big thank you to our board of directors for letting me run with this project. The Community Garden Podcast is administered by Equal Ground Community Gardens, and you can view this episode's show notes at the communitygardenpodcast.ca. Podcast production and editing is by Matt Wilfred at Nuthatch Consulting, and you can get in touch with Matt at nuthatchconsulting@gmail.com. I'm a little bit biased, but we've had a wonderful experience with Matt and would highly recommend his services. And graphic design is by Ben at All Day Breakfast. A lovely thank you to our podcast committee, Paulina, Charlene, and Kat, for all of your hard work. Please consider following, subscribing, rating, reviewing, whatever you need to do on your podcast platform. I promise you, if you pull your phone out right now, you will have already probably completed the task before I finish. It helps us reach more people. Pull out your phone right now. Do the thing while I'm talking. You can follow Equal Ground Community Gardens on Facebook at Equal Ground Community Gardens. And you can also join our Facebook support group at the same name. You don't need to be local to join us there. And you can find us on Instagram at equal_ground. And you can learn more about our organization at egcgbrant.ca. And if you would like to be on this podcast as a guest, you can email podcast@egcgbrant.ca, or you can visit the show notes page at thecommunitygardenpodcast.ca, and there'll be a contact button. Come, let's record the week between Christmas and New Year's when nobody knows what they're doing. We can do it virtually. We can be comfy cozy in our pajamas. There's no video. We don't do any video. It's just audio. So you and I can get on a call and we can chat through gardening. I want to hear your experiences, and everyone else who's listening wants to hear your experiences. That's why we're all here. So yes, please email me. Again, podcast@egcgbrant.ca. Okay, this is my check-in now. Did you go rate, review, subscribe? You probably did. I have faith that you did. All right, folks, I'll leave you here. Again, we're on a little break for a couple of weeks, and I'll see you guys again in January. Bye.